Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Backroad. My name is Ethan Levesque, better known online as the Maine Man. And if you see me peeking over here at a different teleprompter than usual, that's because today we are offering a special guest by the name of Zachary Greaton. You know him best from his music videos with Sony and E1. He's the CEO and founder of Greaton, the medical marketing agency, and he has 6,000 subscribers as a YouTube creator. And together, we're going to discuss the ideas and principles that have guided our career and life goals, and discuss the strategies that actually help to build strong relationships with your audiences, no matter the platform you're using. Zach, you want to say anything?
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you so much, Ethan, for inviting me on here, and obviously great to reconnect because I know we haven't talked in years. So,
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I've known you for such a long time, and I feel like I've talked to you probably 10 times, like 10 years, once a year. It's a pretty good way to sustain a relationship. Zach, I got to say, your background in video production, entrepreneurship, and storytelling is really impressive. You've carved your own career path, and I think that there are only a handful of people that are actually able to do that as forcefully as you have been able to. What would you like to say about that, man? I feel like we've had a really cool career in that respect of like you just move forward at your own path unapologetically, and it seems to work, you know?
well, I'd like to say it works when it's working, and then it really doesn't work when it's not, right? But that's where that forceful thing comes in. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I've always definitely had this thing of it's not even like a point to prove, where it's literally I don't know how to go through life without just doing what it is I want to do. And I couldn't, like, I can't function in like a normal, you know what I mean? I don't know how to. And so, I don't know. I just figure if I like doing something, I need to find a way to make money doing it, and then I go from there.
Yeah, fulfillment must be pretty important to you, huh? Just like
Oh,
loving
yeah.
what you do.
Yeah, yeah, massive. And this is something that I sure we can go into later on more in depth, but um, for sure, I've had those moments in my career where even if money is pouring in, and even if I have the next opportunity, if I feel like it's not right, I've had to do pivots to
Yeah.
make sure the self fulfillment is there because that most definitely is my guiding star for sure.
Yeah. Well, I have written here in the notes, make witty segue, but I think you just kind of did it for me, man. That's like everything you just said is sums up what the rest of the show is going to be about. So for everyone listening, coming up on the back road, Zach and I are going to talk about our career successes, and maybe even some of our career flops. What do you think about that, Zach?
Oh, for sure. I think we
Okay.
learn more from the flops than we do the successes.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about the YouTube algorithm and the best practices for winning in a market that, quite frankly, is flooded with healthy competitors. And we're going to talk about how we've problem solved and transitioned our careers as social media and our industries have changed. All of that and more just around the corner. Welcome to episode 30. Today's theme is YouTube, the good, the bad, and the endlessly frustrating. Zach, I'd actually like to offer the floor to you. How have you been? What the heck have you been up to? I feel like we haven't talked in forever.
Yeah, I think both of us have a both a bad and a good habit, right? It's a gift and a curse. We're so focused on growth all the time internally that it almost makes us narcissistic and forget to check back in with others on occasion. So I feel like it's overdue time for us to finally reconnect, and I'm
Yeah,
excited to hear kind of what you've been up to too.
yeah. I mean, you said it, man. I'm a horrible communicator, and I'm also a great communicator. Like when I have a message I really want to say, and I got to have an important conversation with someone, I'm there. I'm enunciating correctly. I'm being nice about it. But then if I'm swamped or overwhelmed or busy, oh my god, you're never gonna hear from me. I'm a cousin that lives in like Arkansas that you hear from once every 7 years because Grandpa invited him to Thanksgiving and no one knows why. you know, so
But you know
but
what? I do think that's like right. That's the natural gift of life and growth. I feel like right. Like things. There's something I've always heard of like life is seasons. You know, and sometimes you have seasons that are focused on people and reconnecting with people from the past or connecting with new people that are very beneficial to your growth
yeah,
and you're beneficial to their growth. And then you have seasons that you're just hyper focused on yourself. Right. It's like you need that downtime to be able to, I guess, find the person that you're looking to become, and also treat people the way that you would like to. That
Mm.
takes a lot of self-work to get there.
Yeah, man, you said it, pal. Man, you said like three things that I really agree with, and I don't know if I can go back and mention each one of them, but I lacked so much confidence in this career path. Like,
Mm.
when I first started my career, I was just talking to someone today that I went to school with 10 years ago. He was one of my early classes. We talked about how I had no self-confidence. Like, I had this real bad case of imposter syndrome. Like, I should not have been there. Everyone in my classes was better than me. I didn't know what I was doing. And I felt like I was constantly not competing, but just trying to keep up. And I'm very blessed to be here, but like, I'm here because I had no belief that this was going to work the way it did. Like, I worked really hard because I thought I was going to fail. I knew I was going to fail. And so to be able to be here today, self-employed, having run a business, my own company for like 8 years, and made it work through some pretty crappy stuff. Like, I don't know. It's been a good time. It's been rewarding, but yeah, it wasn't without a lot of internal work.
Yeah, there's I think the most relatable thing of all is that imposter syndrome isn't always, I guess, the way I'd word it, as much as just this clawing internal insecurity, that it's not that I didn't feel like I belonged. It's more so just like forgetting to appreciate how difficult just to where you've gotten is.
Yeah.
Like it's a gift and a curse, right? Like a lot of the things that I know are strengths for us are also our biggest weaknesses. Of like, rapid growth means constant criticism. And if you're constantly criticizing yourself, then sometimes it makes you not grow. So it's like this fine line, right? But then if you are too confident in yourself, then you're comfortable. And then you don't go anywhere and you become an arrogant buffoon. You know what I mean? So it's like this constant battle, and it's really, really hard to find that. And I've yet to find the perfect balance. I go
Yeah.
through my periods that I am in the worst low possible. I still get done what I need to, but they're what I consider my self reflection times. And then there's other periods that are just so like confident I could take over the world for like 3 months. I'm like, go, go, go. But then the crash hits again.
Yeah.
It's just, I haven't, yeah, it's that insecurity is I mean, look at Elon Musk out of that, like, like, still we're talking, that man has done how much? He pretty much owns us all. And still to this day, he talks about that he can't fall asleep, that he like is miserable, and like,
Oh yeah, he
like,
still
what do you
sleeps in
mean?
his office like 2 days a week.
Oh yeah,
Like
and
like
he still has something to prove, like for
yeah.
what, like just to himself, to the world. He's got a mission, and it's not like just him. I know he's a controversial figure. It's just that is entrepreneurship, and that is people that are ambitious. They are their own worst enemy. You
Yeah.
could become top 1%, and you want to be top 0.1%, and then you become top 0.1%, and you want to be top 0.00001%. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like it just keeps going.
I look back on the days in my career where I was like working all-nighters and pulling off a lot of them, and I actually am so nostalgic of those days.
Oh, I can't
Like,
do all night. I agree. I can't do all-nighters anymore. I'm getting too old. It's
yeah, it's funny because I to try to balance my work life and my professional life, because it is so hard as an entrepreneur and as someone self-employed. It's just hard to have a passion in general, because like that, most of that isn't fun. Most of your passion is like not rewarding. It's just the last 5% of polish that goes, that felt kind of okay, and
yeah.
then you just on to it the next day. And so I have, to help find that balance, I've kind of adopted a work schedule that is really just kind to myself.
Mm,
It's like I have a huge mile-long task list of things I want to get done. They're prioritized based on date and how important they are. But I have office hours, and I have an expected amount of hours that I expect to work each week, but I don't have office hours each day. Like, I wasn't supposed to work yesterday. I'm usually off Sunday, Mondays, but I didn't work very much last week. I was babysitting my nephews. I had this great, great experience, but I only got half of the things I needed accomplished. And so this week I worked on a Monday. I came in early on a Tuesday, and it wasn't hard to do it. I didn't even have to set an alarm to wake myself up on a day off. I just showed up. I woke up at 6 a.m. like a friggin' spring chicken and was ready to pop off. And so it's like, it's so easy to do the things that I love when I'm not pressuring myself to do it and when I need my downtime and I need to relax and decompress because things do get crazy and things do catch on fire. Like I
Yeah.
offer myself that grace.
And that's honestly I think that's the wisdom in the age that hits. And frankly, like you and I were both similar in terms of like and for those that don't know, we went to college together.
Yeah.
And both of us always were doing our own things. And everybody in my circle used to be like, oh my God, you remind me kind of like Ethan. You guys are just hustling. But we didn't talk all the time because we were just busy hustling. We were,
Yeah.
it wasn't that it was like a dislike, or it was literally like we were living in our own worlds, making things and working. But we are always so go, go, go. And then like from 18, 19, 20 to 20, well, I just turned 28. And in that time, it's like I'm a different person. There's like elements from what I've learned over those years, but when you're moving fast in life, that is like 30 years of experience and wisdom that
Mm.
you wrap into 10 years simply because you're moving at a speed that like most people can't keep up with. That's probably the ADHD and the caffeine in both
Oh
of
yeah,
us.
there's
You
all
know
kinds of
what
stuff going on there. Yeah.
I mean? I don't call it a work-life balance. I've always preferred like work-life integration. My work is my life, and
Mm,
that's why I love my life overall. Not that you don't have your bad days, but like I appreciate the fact that I can work when I need to work, and when I don't want to work, I don't work. Right? Like it's an integration. It's just one and the same. I work when I need to, and I don't when I. You know what I mean? It's just
yeah.
different. I don't turn off and on. I just kind of am on at, depending at what percentage I want to bring it up to. Yeah, you
I
know.
like that. Yeah, I like that.
For me, I used to be work all night, all day, hate my life, hate myself, criticize myself all the time, and see how long I can just keep hustling.
Yeah.
And even though now in hindsight, I don't do that. In fact, if you were to look at my calendar, I have a team of about 20 people now. I have a bunch of clients. We're expanding. And on top of that, I'm doing YouTube and I'm always doing things. But if you look at my calendar, I have nothing on my
Mm,
calendar the entire month. Next month, I have nothing on it. Somebody told me earlier, which is a term in the sales world I'd never heard that I loved from a CEO, that he said that every CEO needs to learn to carry the bag. And during the time of carrying the bag is when you're just grueling, doing labor you hate and you don't want to do it. But until you've learned it, you don't have the luxury to be able to sit back and make rational decisions and make the right work possible. So, like, even though in hindsight, it's easy for us to be like, oh, those days that we used to just abuse our bodies and all that, it's like we had to do that to be at the position that your 4 hours of work today is worth 12 hours of work 10 years ago for you,
that's
you
even
know?
that's low. Even that's a low ratio. Even in the last week, I shaved off like 2 hours of my editing time on weddings just because I discovered
Hmm.
one little different trick. Like I abandoned something I'd been doing for 6 years, tried something new, shaved 2 hours.
It's
Like I'm
wild,
constantly
especially
coming
with
up
all
with that.
these new plugins and stuff, man. Oh
Oh
my
yeah, right
god, some of
now.
these new automations.
Yeah, we're in a crazy world right now. I discovered this app we're using today.
One of my buddies gives me crap all the time because he calls me a there's an app for that guy because we're always on the hunt. And the moment that I find a new app, I'll be like, you need to experiment with this for 3 days, report back what percentage faster it is. And then they come back and they're like, oh, it's about 30% faster. I'm like, okay, dump it, switch to that, train everybody. I'm
Train
like,
it.
yeah, literally tech is making this transition so fast. It's wild. Like there's always different gold mine periods for entrepreneurs and business owners. But we're going through for a period, it was the TikTok era, right? And you were part of that era,
Yeah.
right? There was so much opportunity. Not that there's not still opportunity, but now we all know it is hyper saturated and also off topic, but it's at risk of being banned, right? Like
Yeah.
the end of the TikTok era has sort of arrived. It might still survive, but it's not the gold rush. What most people don't realize is one person or a small team of people can now achieve something that a 100-man team was able to do 5 years ago if you know how to utilize these programs, but now you can learn them fast. The unlimited access to chat customer support for all these businesses means like you don't know how to do something, guess what? You don't need to hire an employee to teach you. You literally just send a message to customer support. They get back to you in under 5 minutes and will teach you how to do the thing or do it for you. And so now you're able to balance so much. And so if an entrepreneur has an idea, it's no longer about like learning the tediousness of how to do the thing. It becomes of how do I sell the thing and how do I create a system that automates said thing. A lot of people today, I find, are more lazy than ever, but the people that are productive are more productive than ever. So growth is lightning fast, but it's getting easier for those that work hard to actually make money in something. Because most people are, even though the tools are available, nobody's actually willing to use them. That just means
Yeah.
they're willing to use more Netflix because it's more available. You know what I mean?
3 or 4 years ago, Gary Vaynerchuk's VaynerMedia, right, his
Mm.
marketing agency, did the Kill Mr. Peanut campaign, and they like killed Mr. Peanut, and they had a whole funeral. Like all the commercials were like Mr. Peanut's dead. It cost probably $1 to $3 million in animation dollars, not including the amount of money it cost to like put that on the broadcast. Like that was probably so expensive. And in about 6 months, that entire campaign can have been made with AI for a $50 subscription.
100%. It's getting wild, especially
Yeah.
Sora AI. I'm terrified of it. I'm so excited, but I'm actually kind of terrified of it.
We've been working a long time to get here. It's got its flaws, but it's like it's also has these crazy upside potentials.
Oh, I mean, it makes people like us, people like the ones listening, it means that the barrier of entry is lower. But if you have a good idea and a good work ethic, you can take over and you can accomplish great things. I mean, even with Adobe's the Photoshop AI enhancer, I forget what they call it. They have a video version that's coming out within a year that basically is removing the need for green screen and CGI almost entirely. Like you'll be able to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, change the tie color on this guy," and it will auto rotoscope change it to purple tie rather than red. Oh, let's get rid of the trash can in the background. And in old music video age, I remember I had one music video. I needed to spend $5,000 just to remove something in a moving frame because she was standing on a platform in water. And we had to remove that it was visible that there was a platform. So it seemed like she was just standing on
Yeah.
water. And it cost me $5,000 to hire a CGI team. Within the year, Adobe's just gonna be like, "Oh yeah, you want to remove that platform? Click of a button."
It's
That cost
crazy.
me $60 for the month.
Yeah, I was just talking to one of my photo editors the other day, and he said that he was doing a wedding edit, and there was a bunch of people in the background of one of these photos, and he was in Lightroom, and he had the background analyzed, and then it popped every person on screen up as their own profile layer, and then he was able to just turn people in the background off.
Insane. Yeah, it just means that rather than spending all the time on the tedious stuff, you spend more time making something really good,
Yeah,
you know?
totally. I think that brings us to the meat and potatoes of this week. So, bad segue aside, let's move on to story time. In my career as a video and content production specialist, I've had a lot of highs and lows in my career. And I'm sure you can attest to this, Zach. Most of this process is not all sunshine and rainbows. There are a lot of hard days, long nights, and emotional hangovers. Uh, to be doing this all by ourselves, to be writing, producing, directing, filming, even acting, doing all of it, it's hard. And each of those things are hard on their own, but you and I have always been two guys that believe in being in charge of our own vision. It's mostly what we just talked about. So my biggest question is like, how have you been able to handle this roller coaster?
I think to answer that, an edge of psychopathy, and hatred. Like if you're somebody that's hit a rock bottom more than almost anybody else, everything is upward.
Yeah.
And so for me, and it's something I'm always very open about. I was heavily bullied growing up, heavily. I hated myself. I was insecure about everything. To me, the world was never going to get along with me. So it was my job to build a life that didn't require me to beg and plead, right? And when I was younger, that led to me being angry. That meant to me led to me being um, fake arrogant, right? Like making up for something that wasn't there, right? The pseudo confidence. But that energy meant that when I had to deal with those lows were nowhere near what I had to deal with years before. And I look at all that other stuff. I'm like, look, what else is there? You know what I mean? It's like, cool, I'm miserable today. Great. I was miserable a month ago. Let's keep moving. And over time, I feel like it's odd. It's like I did so many years of almost like self-abuse testing of like, how much can I take? How much can I take? To the point that now I'm happy 90% of the time. Like I rarely have lows now, and my lows are like such first world problem lows. It's ridiculous. I got into music videos when I was in high school, is when I started. I was about sophomore year of high school. I I got bullied because I did a post one time on Facebook saying I refuse to stop. And it was a testament to me. I was like promising myself because I always just kept changing what I was doing. I was like, I'm not going to stop until I earn seven figures. And it was like a post that was like, again, it was for me, it was for my family. I wanted to inspire myself in 10 years kind of
Yeah.
thing and hold myself
It's
to it.
like Jim Carrey writing himself $1 million check. It's like,
Exactly,
yeah.
and it was on my personal Facebook. I wasn't a brand at this point. For years, I developed a nickname that I was bullied for of seven figures. People would walk by me in the halls and be like, "Oh, you make seven figures yet, bro? Oh yeah, your music videos are so good." And my videos were bad, but I didn't care. And I blocked them out and I didn't care. And then next thing you know, years went by and I just kept making music videos. I was doing them for free. I was then doing them for 50 bucks, 100 bucks, 500 bucks per. And then I eventually moved to Los Angeles. And the amount of like, and as you know, when you're shooting everything yourself, when you're editing everything yourself, when you're working on a low budget, you develop a skill set most people don't understand.
Yeah.
I was able to participate in all aspects of filmmaking. And so when I got my first label connection, I had become friends with a photographer. And then she was like, "Oh, there's this artist that you really need to meet," which ended up being an artist, Call Me Charisma. And I had coffee with him. And on the spot, he played a song. He was like, "What's your idea?" And it was like, but I had done that so many times before, and I felt so confident doing it that I would just close my eyes and I'd listen to the song, and within 5 minutes, I came up with an idea for our first music video, and it was an infant version of it. But he looked at me and he smiled. He was like, "Wow, I wasn't expecting you to come up with a dope idea." He was like, "I thought you were going to ask for like a day," and we got along really well. And he fought for me at the label. I had pretended to the label as if I had managed a big budget. I think the budget was $25,000 on the first one. And I had never like my max budget was $500 and it all went to me, right? Like it was
Yeah. Yeah.
never, I never hired people. And if I did, it was asking for help. And I had 1 week. They dumped the money in my account. I pretended through. Oh yeah, I've managed this music video was $10,000, and I took like a nice one and like pretended like it was a budget and all that. And I just pretended my way through it. I filled out the contracts. I learned as fast as I could. They dumped the money in my account, and I had 1 week to produce it,
Damn.
film it, edit it, and release it. We had 1 week.
Wow.
And I was like, it was so much that I didn't even have time to think. Like I couldn't stress. I just worked. I just worked and I figured it out. And at that point, it was weird. It was like a culture shock for me because suddenly we were renting materials and props from Warner Brothers Studios, and we're in the actual sets and renting from them and signing our company account up with them. And I ended up meeting one of my who's now I consider a good friend, my buddy Alex, who was my director of photography on it, and he had done music videos that I like studied in high school, and I was just in awe all the time. And when I was on set, I just I felt at home. I didn't feel scared. I was excited. The video was great, and the label was like, "Oh, like, so how's it feel like doing your first label music video? But at least you worked with budgets before." And I laughed. I was like, "Oh no, this is my first budget. Most was $500." And the guy exploded laughing. He was like, "Well, you pulled it off." And from there, it just sort of led to my next few years. And I was always chasing the next project, sending in. I mean, I've sent proposals for, and I did not hit all of them, but I've sent proposals for The Weeknd. I've sent proposals for Post Malone. And I was doing big proposals and I was getting in those circles, and I was just chasing that next check. That's where a lot of my income was. And I was doing weddings and stuff here and there to get extra cash if I wanted to buy new gear or something. I'd pick up some weddings and stuff. I mean, you know that hustle. Weddings
Oh
are always
yeah.
available.
That's my core.
And
I rather than have it be my side hustle, I made it my main hustle, and now I can treat it like my side hustle because it's like I'm working for someone else, even though I'm
it's
working for
smart.
me. It's awesome.
there's a lot of good money in it, and also it's hard to be mad if you're at a wedding.
Every time I go to film a wedding, I'm always like, I come home happy,
Yeah,
just
it's hard to be like,
got a
how can you be
milkshake in
mad?
my hand. I'm like, today could not be any better.
And but yeah, no, I mean, like, I very much enjoyed what was happening at the time, and I was living in the moment. I met a lot of great people, and, but I started getting miserable in the process deep down because and this is part of the fulfillment thing where I didn't like dealing with the industry. I can't tell you how like all the things that people say are more than likely true just from my viewpoint as an outsider. I'm from New England. I'm from East Coast. I believe in honesty. I believe in being authentic, and I was becoming a very inauthentic person to survive in that industry. I
Mm,
was becoming exactly what I hated because that's how you win, and I was winning, right? And when pandemic hit, like everybody, I had a bit of an existential crisis. LA had fully shut down. I mean, to the point that it became illegal to walk outside, like quite literally. Most people don't realize how bad it got. There was riots everywhere. My car got busted into twice. People were trying to break into my apartment. Like it was wild. And so I suddenly realized that I really hated being in LA.
mm,
And that music videos weren't the final stop because I told myself that I would be happy. I still remember to this day the worst day of my life, at least my adult life, not my childhood, was the day that I hit top trending on YouTube on a music video. We literally hit number one. It was millions of views, and I hated that video. It's
oh,
K Michelle's "The Rain," and all love to K and everybody involved. Um, like the edit got taken away from me on that project, and I've
mm,
talked about it before, and whatever, it's fine. But the edit was pulled away from me on that project, and it just didn't. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. And in hindsight, I can look at it and be like, no, it's a good video. But like then, it was a shell of what I thought it was going to be,
mm,
and I was embarrassed. I actually was. And I made some projects I'm really proud of, and we got mega millions of views. And on YouTube, I learned a bunch because, when you're hitting top trending, you start to realize like what was hitting and what wasn't, to the point that if I would tell a label, this will be one of this artist's best performing videos, it ended up coming true. But I pivoted because during pandemic, I just realized like when was enough going to be enough for me? And what was the cap? And to me, it was a box I didn't want to be in. I didn't want to be the music video guy anymore. I still want to make movies, and I wanted to build an empire on my own. I've always chose the hard path. I've always chose the path with the most resistance, not the least resistance. And I wanted to start building my own thing. And so I moved off to Atlanta, Hollywood 2.0 now. I mean, everything films in Atlanta now. And I started building an agency life that, I was able to sit at
yeah.
home, and that's what I do now. And so that's sort of the I guess the trajectory where it went. And now I've been in the agency life, running my company for I don't know. It's been about 3 years of me building it
Hmm,
up and ups and downs and chaos, and we've ended up here,
wow.
um, which is at my happiest, most confident self and highest earning self, which is also a added bonus.
That's incredible. I mean, that's really great. Your story, I've always been curious about why you left LA. And so I was actually just like really captivated by what you were talking about because I've always been really curious about that. Um, what was different with LA or than Georgia? Like what was the number one reason why you enjoyed Atlanta more?
Um, a couple things, right? If there's one thing I loved about LA, right, you get it. Being from Maine, there's not a lot of diversity.
Yep.
I always craved other culture. I craved combative chaos, I guess, right? Like the more differences there are, the faster you learn. It expedites the curve. And LA had that, but LA, it was so fake in its approach to it. They weren't actually very accepting of diversity. They just knew how to sell diversity. It was different. There's a thing in LA that rather than saying like, "Hey, this is my friend Ethan. He loves golfing. He's a good dude. He's got a podcast. I really like him. You will love him as a person," right? Instead, you say, "Hey, there's this guy I know. He went viral on TikTok a couple times. He could really, I think, add value to you because he could plug you in with X, Y, and Z. Oh, and by the way, his name is Ethan." Right?
Yeah. It's like your
That
sense of self almost comes last.
100%. The human always comes last because you're just a pawn on a chessboard to everybody there. Not that there's not good people in LA. There definitely is. Some of my best friends are still there. But the way you survive in that industry is through that mechanism. And then when I went to Atlanta was exactly what I wanted LA to be. It was raw, it was underdog. Every part of the city is so different. There's so much diversity. It's up and coming. Things are improving every day. They're building a bunch of companies coming in. The film people have something to prove. I mean, this is a city where Tyler Perry is like literally like the local hero, and he wasn't at all like respected in LA. And whether you like his stuff or not, that man owns a studio in Atlanta that he bought a military compound out here over near my house. It's right near my house. And it is bigger than every studio in LA combined,
Wow.
and he's a billionaire just doing what he's doing, right? He employs people. He was the first film company to open during pandemic. Now Lionsgate Studio just opened 10 minutes from me. They just opened a permanent studio. Disney films all their stuff here now. Amazon films almost everything here now. And everybody in Atlanta is so grateful for it. Like, you'll see these people work on the biggest movies. They're humble, and they will still do free indie projects just because they're passionate about it. You don't have that in LA. In Atlanta, it's people that really love seeing it and love being part of it and love creating. And also it
Mm.
helps it's cheaper to live here, so people aren't hustling paycheck to paycheck as much. It's like what I like about New England, of that, the honesty, the directness, with this other southern hospitality charm where people at least try to be more friendly, but not as fake as LA is. It's like an in between. It's
Mm.
a nice balance that I think just works well for me.
Nice. I've always been curious. When I started my career, I went against the grain, and I was kind of bullied for like wanting to stay here. Like I was bullied in high school for wanting to leave. I was bullied in college for wanting to stay. And so I always knew that I wanted to keep my career in Maine because I know what I value in life, and what I value is fresh air and water I can go swimming in, and like and
Yeah,
just
I wouldn't go swimming in Georgia water.
yeah, no, I'm gonna go like my house right now. Like I have a 1.1 mile hiking trail that's just part of like a preserved wilderness that's just right behind my house, and so like I
That's
can
awesome.
go do anything I want back there. I mean, some people smash beer bottles. There's always some of that. LA, Maine, doesn't matter. But like, there's also beautiful things and woodpeckers and porcupines fighting in my tree above me. Like, that's cool. I enjoy being like the Mary Poppins of this little neighborhood on social media. But
And the cool thing is about that is it's what we've been talking about, right? It's building the life that makes you
yeah,
happiest,
yeah,
right? If that means I make less money being in Atlanta, which so far has not been the case, but if long term, if let's say me staying in LA led to a life of quote unquote luxury and success and all this and that in the industry circuit, great. What's that worth if you don't enjoy where you live and what you're doing and what you're seeing around you, the air you're breathing? Because man, oh man, was LA air the grossest thing on the planet. I'm from Maine, man. Like, we have oxygen out there.
yeah. Bangor, Maine was voted number one cleanest air, number one cleanest water in like the whole country. Like, and
I'm not
that's my
surprised. It was also,
that's my
it's not
backyard.
anymore, but at one point it was the safest state in the country as well.
I think it's number
Um,
two now, but yeah, it was always between us and either Vermont or New Hampshire.
yeah,
Yeah, we bounce
it's
around.
always those three.
Yeah,
Atlanta does not have that award. I can assure
no, no,
you
no, no.
that award does not exist.
When I first started going to college, I kind of had this career path of like, I'm going to graduate with film degree. I'm going to start a wedding business. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm not gifted enough to make movies. I'm not gifted enough to be a social media guy. I'm not gifted enough to be on YouTube. Like, do the safe route. And I thought it was going to take like 10, 15 years to build a wedding video company, and that like maybe one day I could pursue these other things. I had developed a fully functioning, self-paying wedding video production company by the time I graduated from that college. And so like I could have left school and been fully employed on my own, but I still had so little self-confidence, like we mentioned earlier, that I ended up getting a job for the first place that was willing to hire me. I honestly loved this place, to be completely honest, and there's not a lot of places I would have been willing to give up my time like that for. But I liked what they stood for. They taught me a lot. But I could have been fully good right out the bat. I procrastinated 5 years before I was willing to, like, take this bet on myself.
Mm,
And I was just kind of bringing in dual income because I just was so nervous and didn't think I had what it took to make it. And so taking the leap to fix my mental health gave me my confidence and then made me realize, hey, you're being real dumb. If you cut your hours in half by dropping that other job, you could triple your income over here.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to go do that. Right. And so I could see things a lot clearer. But my goal was a wedding video company. I did it in 4 years. I made another goal, which was like I wanted to compete in film festivals. I did that while I was in school. I wanted to make a web series that was like a mockumentary style series. I wrote it, filmed it, and edited it. It was released in 3 months, 6 months after I was out of school. Like, this was just, I realized how good my skill set was, where I could predict problems that you could actually just do anything you wanted. And the timeline was completely up to me, myself, you know? And so I feel like everything that you said really resonated with me, because it's like, at the end of the day, when I started actually investing time in what I wanted my life to look like, that's not only when my life got better, that's also when my career stepped up. Like, everything changed and fell into place and where I kind of wanted it.
There's something to be said about waking up with a purpose and being happy and living your own life.
Yeah, my parents would never understand that I set a wake up alarm maybe 6 times a year. And it's not because I'm not a morning person. It's because I trust my body enough to wake me up when I'm ready. And if it's 11 p.m., it means I'm exhausted. Or at 11 a.m., it means I'm exhausted. If it's 1 p.m., God, I must be really tired. Because the amount of days that it's 5 a.m., I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, all I can think about is that project I want to go edit. I'll dip out before my girlfriend wakes up. I'll edit for 3 hours, and then I'll make us coffee and breakfast and be in absolutely no rush because I'm 3 hours ahead of my day. And then I still work those 3 hours at the end of it. And now I worked a 12-hour shift. Like, there's so much balance in it. I really just love what I do every day. And I hold myself accountable because I love it. And
Yeah.
I think when a lot of people out there are struggling with their discipline, or they're struggling with something that they like can't work hard enough to achieve, or they're starting to feel lazy, I honestly wonder how much of it is just people are doing the wrong thing. Like, I mean, even some people are going into business for themselves because they're being told to, and they know it's an easier route, like financially, and it's, you can be in
And
charge
it's
of your own
not.
freedom, but it's not.
It's
It's
not. It's
way
actually way
harder.
harder. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you're going to do that commitment and take on that challenge, it has to be something you love doing, or it doesn't work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not to discourage anybody listening of starting their own business.
Yeah.
I encourage freelance life. But it takes a certain type of person,
Yeah.
and it needs to be
Yeah.
like self-sacrificial. It's like, how much are you willing to put your happiness aside and push back the reward? The longer you're willing to push back your reward, the bigger that reward gets. It is not the easiest way of making money. It can lead to way more money because there's no cap on how much you can earn, but it most certainly will lead to a deeper confidence in living. Like,
Mm,
if the world falls apart, I feel confident in my ability to maneuver it.
yeah.
If you're angry and you're bitter and you're insecure and you want to just do some self-sacrifice for 3 4 years, that 3 to 4 years of sacrifice for hopefully betterment can set you up for a long time, to the point you have the luxury, like you and I have the luxury of self-work.
To break your back and like give away part of yourself just for somebody else's gain is just so nonsensical to me.
Yeah, and if you like your job, right? It's not an insult to those that like their job.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you like your job, great, keep doing it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But for the people like us that are like deeply unfulfilled and so ambitious and dreamers and also very independent, it's like there's no better route. Like, I will deal with the pain because no matter what, it's all painful. Every path you choose is painful. Welcome to life.
Yeah.
Like, having no kids, painful. Having kids, painful. Having a job, painful. Having no job, painful. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you're having. A lot of money and pressure can be painful, believe it or not. What is your painful? It doesn't really matter. None of it's really easy. It's just, would you rather take a difficult route that benefits, gets closer to what you want, or would you rather take a path that is also painful, but also just benefits somebody else and makes their life a little less painful?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, and those neuroses are probably what led you to be pretty good on the YouTube there.
Yeah, and that's a good transition.
Yeah, let's move right into this week's Earful. I think that makes sense. The YouTube algorithm has always been hard for me to breach. It's the social media app I've been active on the longest. I've been on it since like middle school. I've been on it since way before Facebook, obviously way before TikTok. Right, it's out survived Vine by a, I don't know, 500%. But I routinely cannot get on top of the YouTube algorithm. Like on TikTok, I can get a million view video if you give me a month. Like on Instagram, I can perform pretty consistently. Like all of my analytics show it, but I cannot get a hold of YouTube. And a huge part of the Backroad is educating myself on the things that I need to know so that the people at home can skip a couple of steps. So, Zach, what do you think about YouTube at this point in your career?
Yeah, so YouTube is my favorite platform. It's the opposite, right? It's the one I understand most, and like you'll see I post on TikTok, but that's because we post on Sprout Social, and it's just scheduled to go on both TikTok and YouTube, but it's really formatted for YouTube.
I've been using Buffer. Do you recommend yours?
Sprout, so I love Sprout because Sprout has official certifications and partnerships with these apps and platforms. So you have better analytics, and also it's like zero risk for banning. It is more expensive.
See,
We
now I
use
have
it for our
to.
clients, but it's definitely worth looking into. They have super in-depth analytics reports, which is really nice if you're somebody that loves looking into that data.
Yeah, I do love looking at data, and I've been doing a lot more nonprofit and business sponsored videos.
Mm.
And so I need to be able to show them the analytics in a big way. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, being able to
Sprout
have
is huge then.
okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Then I'm going to make a pivot. See, people, that's how easy it should be to pivot. When someone brings something to the table, you come in with an open mind, you hear them out, you form your opinion, you express it to them, and next thing you know, you're a better person. That's
Yeah,
that
no
easy.
point in hanging on to your beliefs for dear life. That just hurts you. Um, but yeah, no, YouTube is an interesting beast because it's actually not as complicated as people think, but it's also more dense, which makes it harder to tap into, right? So like what I'm struggling with right now is I'm competing in the most broad, hard to compete in YouTube genre of self help. And I'm relatively broad about it, right? So, like, I could touch on the same niche topic over and over again, and I would build a following, right? I have a medical marketing agency. I could sit there posting videos that are just about medical marketing, and I would grow a much bigger following faster. But with my clients, I'm able to build them bigger followings because we follow sort of the straightforward steps and we keep it very niche. And it's funny because I try to break my own rules for my personal page, but it's certainly not the path of least resistance, right? Like I have to really work hard to try to get successes. And
Mm.
I've seen steady growth, which is good. It's just not as fast as I would love. But with YouTube, the biggest way to look at it is YouTube is Google, right? Everybody complicates it so much. YouTube is the Google search algorithm. Like when we do SEO, so search engine optimization for different businesses, which is one of our services, it's focusing on what are people searching? How does your website rank higher? Okay, well, how does your video rank higher? It's no different because it's all based on literally the app Google Trends, right? You can look and find out exactly how many people are searching for why am I depressed? How many people have searched for that this month? Okay, well, if you post a video titled why am I depressed or why are you depressed? Question mark, and you fulfill that answer, well, you're likely to get a higher search volume if you follow, right? TikTok is more about the sound. And while that kind of exists on YouTube, it's still a search engine. When people go on YouTube, it's different. Like you interact with YouTube. You're there to
You
learn. You're
interact
there
with
to
Google different. Like you when you're searching, like you're not typing whole sentences. You're like cutting your phrasing down. You're making sure that
Mhm.
it's direct and that like a stupid software can understand what you want. It's almost like having to say Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut instead of saying New England, so
Mhm.
that you have five more chances of popping up, whereas you're putting all your eggs in the basket of New England.
That's exactly true. And then with YouTube,
I offer these services as well.
and then YouTube, you have the added thing, right? So like TikTok, you understand, right? The TikTok algorithm is simply based around will show you to 100 people. If those 100 people watch it and watch it all the way through and you have a well-formatted video, we will show you to 500 people. Then we'll show you to 1,000 and it will keep going until it stops, right? YouTube algorithm is kind of similar, but I would say higher competition and a higher focus on longer view time. Now, YouTube Shorts exists and it's relatively similar to TikTok, just less trends, but the money is in the long form. That's where, and also not only just the money, the true loyalty and interaction to your brand.
Yeah.
And so YouTube just released some new awesome features that make it easier to do A, B, and C testing. So you can now upload 3 different thumbnails at once, and YouTube will see which one works best. And then it will choose
Yeah.
the one that works best. You can do the same thing with titles now as well. And so when people are searching for something, everybody always overcomplicates it. And I'm not saying it like it's easy. It's not. If it was easy, I would have millions of followers. But the idea of it is easy to comprehend. Where if you go on your YouTube homepage and you scroll and you click on something, what made you click? All you're seeing is the thumbnail and the title and a little bit of the description. While SEO and all that search terms do have to do with how many impressions you get, the click through is then what matters, right? Because then you're looking at your primary analytics of the click through rate, how many people see it on their page and click on the video. YouTube uses CTR as a massive metric. Then, how long are they staying on the video? If you have a 10-minute video and it's averaging out at 1 minute and 10 seconds, well, that video is probably going to bomb. No matter how good the search term is, no matter how good the thumbnail, you did not deliver, you did not entertain, they're gone. That video is a dud. And the next one is views, right? So, and while that seems obvious, the reason why it's important is it counts on how many views you're getting within a certain duration. So, if within the first 2 hours of your release, on average, you're only getting 10 views, but on this release, you get 30 views, YouTube says, wow, people are liking this one better than his last videos. Oh, and wow, his CTR is now at 6.8%. Usually it's at 2%. Okay, great. So people love the thumbnail. And then, oh, wow, the view duration is now at 3 minutes. People are really watching this. And it's always what is called the curiosity gap. That is huge on YouTube, right? Where it's like, what makes you see something and say, huh, I want to know that, and then you click on it. It's always something. Like Mr. Beast is a master of it through and
Oh,
through. You're like, oh, $1 million versus a tank. And you're like, what does that
okay.
even mean?
Yup. Yeah, that's what my girlfriend's getting used to me having saying. Yup. Every time I pop up my phone and something like that pops up. Yup, and then I disappear for 10 minutes. Like,
And it's how do you get somebody to do that? And it doesn't need to be uber complicated and it doesn't need to be uber simple. It doesn't, I don't know. It's different for everybody. I haven't fully figured it out. We've been experimenting with different styles.
yeah.
And
So have I. I've gone through 3 different thumbnail styles in the last like 6 months.
and it's
I For that golf tournament I mentioned earlier, I changed the thumbnails 4 times for that just to try to figure out what was going on, because I had 6 episodes, and so by having a different thumbnail style for each one,
hmm,
I did my own analyzation of what worked and what didn't, and it was crazy because the ones that worked with like a good title and a good thumbnail was episode 4. And why is episode 4 my most watched video? Shouldn't it be the first one or the trailer?
hmm,
No, it was episode 4. But it's because the algorithm clicked. It's because I did my title right. My thumbnail was
yeah.
better. And so then I pivoted the rest to match. I changed all of my thumbnails moving forward because one thumbnail changed the game.
And that's the smart way to do it, right? You got to adapt and you got to learn. um, for me, what I've been struggling with is, imagine if you were giving a speech on a stage and 100 people are in there. That's still 100 people one way or another, and if
Yeah.
100 people listen to it regularly, I'm still thankful for that. That's better than nothing. Just because it didn't hit a million, it's like, yeah, that's still 100 people you could be helping.
Yeah, 100's a
And
pretty impressive number. We shouldn't forget that.
yeah, 100%. We get so we forget to humanize the view when the view is still a human. It's still somebody watching your content. Um, but anyway, so like I'll have one video. Specifically, I did some experiment of a different style that I decided I'm not doing anymore. And it kind of just shot me in the foot. The biggest one was Gen Z. It was the most clickbait video. It was
Oh
like
yeah.
Gen Z is the smartest, laziest, dumbest, and fastest generation. And it was fully scripted. I teleprompted the whole thing. I had witty jokes. It was fast. We did flashy editing. And it was so generically perfect for the algorithm, and I planned it as so. And of course, that's the one that started taking off for me. And I'm not saying millions of views, but I'm getting thousands upon thousands upon thousands. And not only that, a large portion of them were subscribing. But that means that when those people started getting hit with heavy topics, and suddenly I'm like talking about like this is this is how you deal with deep dark depression. You know what I mean? It's like people are suddenly like, wait a minute, I don't care about that.
Unsubscribe, unsubscribe. I don't know what this is.
But even worse, they don't unsubscribe, they just don't interact.
Mm,
And so if they don't interact, YouTube takes that and they're like, oh, so his followers don't like it, so new people won't like it either.
yeah. What do you
And
do to
so
increase your interactions?
that's what I'm still working on. It seems like there's certain, like, sure, I can just do controversy. That works. I don't want to do it.
Mm.
Right? Like, there's certain things I'm willing to do and certain things I'm not. I don't want to participate in the ongoing division. I would rather be an online voice that is a logical sound middle, even if YouTube doesn't want to push it.
I've never done this before, but
Yeah. I mean, you get it, right? Like, I could sit there and just be like going on political rants and trying to divide people and all this. But even if I'm talking on a controversial thing, I've been experimenting with it where I will touch on a controversial thing I feel passionate about. But even the way I approach it is very much from a middle ground because
yeah.
I look at things from a middle ground. I don't think things are good and evil. I think that there's logical things and there's illogical things, but usually the truth tends to be in the middle someplace. And so I could just increase engagement that way, or I can just ask for people to comment.
People undervalue that one, commenting back and like,
Oh,
hey, subscribe. It's like the amount of times I've thrown out a, hey, I've seen you comment 3 times. You want to subscribe? And
oh,
then
it can
they
work.
subscribe and you're like, hey, thanks. Like, I would hit my comment limit every single day
Oh
at
my
the
gosh.
height of my TikTok fame because I was responding to every single comment on every single video until my cap was hit, and it was 500 a day, and then it
Holy
would shut
crap.
me off.
Yeah, and
And
see, but
yeah, but it's like,
especially to grow, that's a good idea, right? It's
yeah,
putting in the extra hours to really not only it's like think of the difference of if you were a celebrity. Like let's take a celebrity that almost everybody loves. Might not love his music, but loves as a human. Tends to be Post Malone. That's one like he's one of the most loved like human regular guys or Keanu Reeves. And they're the guy that if you approach them on the street, they'll respond and they'll talk to you.
yeah,
You know, like there is something to be said about talking to your audience, which I try to I don't respond to super negative. I don't usually delete it either, but like if it's super negative, I'm just kind of like whatever, and sometimes my followers will like go and just argue for me and I'm like, "Cool, thanks." But other than that, if it's somebody even if it's a small disagreement, I'll have debates in the comments with people and like professional, but you know, they're an audience, right? Like they're
yeah.
people. I want to talk to them.
There was one where there was the trucking community got really upset with me because I made a video about how there was a bunch of people doing this to like get 18 wheelers to honk by my apartment, but it was like 1 a.m. and they were doing it and I was getting a little irritated. And so I made a video about it and like the trucking community was like, that's what we live for. Don't keep us down. And so there was a long period of time where I had truckers in my comments like roasting the crap out of me and I was pretty apologetic to them.
And but you know, that's part of the personality too, right? It's like if you do that, then again, these are people, and on YouTube, they're more engaged than they are on TikTok and elsewhere. Like YouTube, there's a reason why YouTuber is a celebrity now, and
Yeah.
everybody's trying to be a YouTuber. TikToker sort of is said in a different light because I think it just has this look of filler entertainment where you can climb fast, and then you can fall off really fast. YouTube, if you win your audience, people actually like love you. Like Mr. Beast, even if you look at like Logan Paul, somebody that everybody's like, oh, I hate him and all this and that. His followers loved him on YouTube, and then he spread elsewhere, but he was a YouTuber and he's still a YouTuber. Prime outsold Gatorade, and it's brand new. Gatorade, one of the most staple brands in the world, and Logan Paul just launched a competitor and it just won.
Mhm.
Mr. Beast launches chocolate and now he's competing with Hershey's. You know what I mean? It's like these people get love.
I describe to my my clients, the people, the businesses that I end up coaching. I always say social media is a place for relationships. Your website is the place where you have sales, and YouTube is the place where you build loyalty,
YouTube is the bed
authority.
where you make love.
It's like where all the good stuff happens. Everything that you do on social media should be pointing to your YouTube channel for loyalty and your website for
Mm,
sales. It's like, I mean, that's all. That's the only two things that I need to link people to, because
100%.
everything I want to push is on those things.
Yeah, riches are in the niches, is the term I was gonna say, right? Like, people will think like, "Oh, but nobody wants to hear about this." In fact, the more of a niche you have, if you like talking about building radios out in the wilderness and how to build a radio, look, somebody is going to want that. And even if you have 5,000 people in the world, you'll stand out because nobody else is making that one thing, right? And
Yeah.
it can be on any little thing possible. So if you have a niche and you just stick to it, YouTube rewards that, especially the weirder it is. And that small following of 10,000 people could make you millions of dollars, which people underestimate. Like, that small amount is so powerful on YouTube. But if you're building broad is difficult depending on what you're doing. And I find, like, for me, what I struggle with, my biggest benefit in life has been ADHD. I talk about that because to me that's important. Of like, ADHD people are fast, they're quick, they're optimistic, they're energetic, they're quick to move on. They just move at lightning speed. They're the hunters of the world, right? But I'll talk about that. And rather than getting people that are like, "Oh my god, that's so interesting. Thank you for trying to inspire me to be better." Instead, you get the army of people that are like, I know people with ADHD and it ruins their life and their lives are in the tank because of this disease and you don't understand it and you don't have it. You're lying. And I'm like, look, I don't know what to do. And it's common with self-help, of like trying to find the audience that actually wants to improve
Yeah,
and be
there's
hard.
wanting to improve, and it's crazy because everybody comes at things with a different lens. And like,
Yeah.
for me, I have been told by a lot of people that they think I have ADHD, but it wasn't until I got into a deeper therapy I started seeing a couple. Like, I see a transformative therapist. I also have a regular therapist. I also have like a physician who cares about me because I've had like 5 years with this guy at this point, and they've all decided, no, you don't have ADHD. They've actually diagnosed me with complex PTSD, which is basically just a really, really severe form of anxiety. And you say PTSD, and these people think like, oh, like that's bullcrap. You're not a veteran. You didn't see combat. You didn't see anything horrific, and then you just kind of get discredited when you talk about your anxieties and you talk about the things
Yeah.
that stress you out. And so I've never really been super open about this, not because I'm hiding it, but because the correct outlet's never been there. But I finally got on an anti-anxiety medication like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I've also always said that anxiety is my biggest reason to my success. It's the biggest contributor to why I've gotten to where I am, because
100%.
all of the times I'm spending at night worrying about the thing that's going to fall apart, I just harnessed it. I pointed at what it was worrying about. So rather than worrying about the world and my family and like whether or not I was going to die in a car wreck the next day, I was worrying about whether or not my script was grammatically correct, whether or not my SEO is proper, revisiting it on my website. If I have a nightmare about something, I look up what it meant and then I go friggin' solve it, because I'm not going to be able to sleep knowing that something in my business might be broken.
Mm.
And so I really hesitated for a long time to get help because I didn't want to lose the things that made me great. Of course, it doesn't work like that. Like, just the worst symptoms went away. I was able to be a little bit more mindful, and I just turned it off enough to heal some parts of me that were causing it to be worse.
Of course.
And so, but the positives like never went away. I just finally kind of just accepted that I have this problem. And it's hard to then explain to people why it's an asset because they don't believe that I have it in the first place. You know what I mean?
100%.
And that people forget that PTSD was invented, like it was defined in the 80s and 90s. Like, that's new science. Like, anxiety
And a
was
lot of
never.
mental health, by the way, is
It's all
new
new.
science.
Anxiety literally wasn't a word that existed in the vocabulary,
Yeah,
at least not in the
ADHD,
format that we
brand
do
new.
now.
There's a lot of scientists that claim it's not real. Like, it's
Yeah.
brand new.
And so it's you have all of these people that this is my political take on this, is we have, for our entire lives, our parents said, like, don't sit in front of the TV too close, don't be on your phone, you're going to melt your brain, don't play video games all night, you're going to melt your brain. And what happened is our brain melted. But it did it in not in a way where like our eyes got locked in the same face and all of a sudden we were blind. Like, we just became more addicted to dopamine from our screens. We wanted a bigger endorphin release. We were
Yeah.
chasing different things.
Overstimulated.
Our overstimulated, our attention deficit problem in this country
Humans
is
aren't
ridiculous.
supposed to know as much as we do.
Everything is so convenient that
Yeah.
it's that things are complicated and difficult. We're going through things no one's ever got. Like 100 years ago, existential crisis that the world was going to end because of an asteroid was like non-existent.
Yeah.
Imagine not thinking over like about any problems in the world and only thinking about the things that make your life suck. Like that would be incredible. But we have this whole wide worldview, and so it's like so hard to navigate it without any problems. And I
100%.
think it's just so easy to be misled or led astray or just lost in the fire or just fall into the cracks, you know. And so I think that it's really important that people are introspective and take a look at themselves, because it's not until you become radically honest and accepting of who you are that you can actually have the things in life that you want. Like I always wanted a video podcast. I shot myself in the foot every day because I didn't think I could handle it, you know. Get
Well,
on
here you
anxiety
are,
medication,
handle
all of a sudden 30 episodes in, and it was like a walk in the park,
Yeah.
you know. But why did I refuse to help myself for so long? Why did I
What was
refuse
the
to go
thing,
down
even
that
though he's
path?
a controversial figure now, it was like something I heard from Will Smith once that he said, "What's the scariest part of skydiving?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "It's the time thinking about the fact you're going to jump out of a plane. The night before, the plane ride up, but when you jump out, it's too late. You're jumping out of a plane. You're not thinking about that because you're falling from a plane, and then afterwards you feel great." And for me, that was relatable when I heard that because I had just skydived recently when he had said that, or at least when I had heard that. And
Yeah.
it made a lot of sense to me. And I think that that is one of the things of like, people need to at least be willing to talk about the thing that they don't want to deal with or want to acknowledge, or the thing that they're using as an excuse as to why they want to achieve something. Because like, that's a big one for me, is I don't believe in excuses no matter where you're from, no matter
Mm.
what you've been through. I don't believe in it because I see people in the world doing incredible things with the worst circumstances. I know that I look at even my parents and they're an inspiration to me of like, they had really, 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 really scary, hard life upbringing. And not that they're rich or anything like that, but they came out happy. They had a good family. Certainly leveled up, right? Like they got past it. I have mentors that were immigrants that had shops burned down from people that didn't want them there, that dealt with so much backlash, people coming from war torn countries, but they used it as a strength rather than a weakness. And so
Yeah.
like there was a period I was really, 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 really struggling with anxiety, bad, to the point I had mental breakdowns during peak of my career at the time in LA. I ended up in a hospital every other month. That sometimes I was there 2 or 3 days
Mm.
because I was that messed up for many reasons. There was a lot of reasons, but I just no self love in my life, right? That's the
Yeah.
downside of you just keep abusing yourself and hating yourself. At some point, you might break. If you have severe, severe, severe cases, which does exist, mental health is a real beast and it can be really hard. And I'm so thankful that my struggles have not been as severe as many others. And sometimes that medicine's needed for life. Sometimes, but those are the extremes. And I like to believe that the average human is not broken, right? Like we have flaws, but really, I think we're kind of in a broken world that, as you said, like all of this is new. None of this is natural anymore. The go to response on the internet is self abuse and excuse when you're at least on this sort of topic matter. But I would argue all topic matter. I mean, you go on YouTube comments and sometimes they're the most vile things on the planet. And I'm sure it's like that on TikTok, although I don't have as much experience there.
I actually did a pretty good job creating a very positive community. Like
I'm surprised.
it was
Good for
probably
you.
like 1 in 1,000 was like being like rude or mean to anybody in my comment section.
They weren't
Uh,
hating on the robber. They weren't
Nobody
making
did.
fun of
Yeah,
that robber being a bad robber.
because I call it chaotic comedy, but my girlfriend informed me. She was like, that's just actually just really wholesome comedy. And I was like, oh, it's not
Yeah, it
chaotic, it's
is.
wholesome. And yeah, and so it's like I'm making comedy that is just that it is triggering nobody.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
Yeah.
frankly, self-help and saying the thing that some people need to hear, those like you or I, to me, I thrive on that kind of content. That's
Yeah.
what helps me grow. But to other people, they hear it and they're like, it reminds them of either things that they hate or things they hate about other people. the people that always comment negative stuff, but they always comment on all your videos. Thanks for the view, I guess. But
Yep.
anyway, and in all these floods, I then had one comment that was this really long comment from somebody being like, I just realized watching this video, my ADHD isn't why I'm bad at my job. My job is bad for my ADHD. I need to find something else that stimulates me more. Thank you so much. I think I'm going to quit and find something that benefits me more. And I was like, yes, out of all of this, somebody got benefit from it. Like to me, all the negative, it's balanced out because I'm like, whatever. One kid watched this video and it gave him a little bit of a jolt of hope. And, he saw the thumbnail, he saw the title, it was something he was dealing with depression, he was dealing with anxiety, he was dealing with something important, and he watched it and that helped him out.
When we did the golf tournament, we did a podcast episode at the very end, and there was like 200 views total across like all of the platforms. Not much, but it was more than normal. And there wasn't a whole lot of interactions. I got one call from a potential client who was like, "Hey, I heard what you said about nonprofits. I'm a nonprofit. I'd like to work with you." And I was like, "Great." And so like it led to something good. But then the only comment on the entire video is some guy in Canada who was like, "Hey, I'm a town manager for a town. We've been trying to come up with like a fundraising idea. We couldn't think of anything fun. You just gave us like 10 great ideas from listening to this video. Thank you." And I'm like, that was a random person. How the hell you find me? That was a real guy. Yeah,
100%.
very cool.
And that's, I guess, out of all takeaway beyond all tangents and all everything, we're going to wrap up YouTube. It's that when you're creating something, is it something that somebody's searching? Is it something that could help somebody? Is it something that could entertain somebody? Rather than trying to find the algorithm hacks, those people exist. They find the algorithm hack and then they fall off 6 months later. They don't last and it burns them out. They're tired, they're exhausted. Versus for me, I can keep doing this for the next 10 years. Eventually, something will probably work, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm just creating, thinking about like, what's a question somebody would have and can I answer it? And can I add value to it? Maybe I can, maybe I can't. And so when people are going to create stuff, just like make something good and make something people care about. You'll find an audience that wants to hear it. People like you and I will go and find other people talking about ADHD and mental health and stuff, and we'll love the back and forth. And plenty of people won't like it. It's okay. You're not making for them. You're making for the people that want to hear that stuff.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed finding a new audience when I started kind of diversifying over to Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Like the audience that came with those new platforms, it was such a refreshing change of pace. Like it's been a long time in my career since somebody said, "Hey, you made something that changed my day." Like it's been about 2 years since I've been able to
I
pull
would
that off.
rather 100% somebody telling me you made my day, you taught me something than thousands of people saying, "Oh, I liked that." You know what I mean? Like it's just different. It hits different.
Yeah. All
Um,
right. It sounds to me like we just hit a great close. Thanks for being here today, Zach. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Uh, Well, the end of our journey has come, but don't worry, there's plenty more out there to learn and consume. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Maine Man on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And be sure to catch the Backroad every Wednesday wherever podcasts are found. Zach, thanks again for being here, man. Let the people know where to find you. Take the chance to plug whatever you want. Final words, anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you so much for having me on. It's pretty wild seeing the growth even of your content and how it's reflected your beliefs. You went from, as you said, chaotic comedy, which to me is like the ultimate anxiety. You were just putting your anxiety into chaotic skits.
Yeah,
And now your stuff is slower, thoughtful, methodical, which seems to be what your brain is
yeah.
right now, which is very cool seeing that growth.
And likewise
But
too,
anyway,
man. You've had a great career transition too, if I may say so.
thank you. I hope we get to continue reconnecting and maybe do this again. It's fun. Um, but anyway, yeah, you can find me on YouTube, TikTok are my primary platforms right now. I would say YouTube is like I'm trying to master that before I spread elsewhere, but I am also on TikTok. But you can just look up Zachary Greaton. Last name, since nobody knows how to spell it, it's just great on. It's as simple as it sounds. But yeah, if you like some of the topic matter that we were going on, I talk a lot about mental health. I talk a lot about controversial things sometimes that people don't always love talking about, and if people like my opinion or not, but I hope I can make people think about it in a respectful way. But anyway, yeah. It's been fun.
Amazing. It's been great having you. Honestly, I know I contacted you about 2 weeks ago to see if you wanted to be on here, but you have been the guest I've had penciled in for episode 30 since I started episode 21.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I've had it in my docket to make sure that you were my 30th episode.
That's very cool.
Yeah, you were the first guest that I brought after the launch of this thing. So thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, no, it's been very fun, and it's been cool to reconnect, and I hope that people enjoyed listening.
Excellent. Yeah, me too. Thanks for walking the back road. I've been Ethan Levesque with Zachary Greaton, here to help you accomplish your business, marketing, and production goals, and remind you that you can get there from here.
Also, Ethan, I just want to call out, you stole my background.
Yeah, yeah. Or did you steal mine? We
Look,
can
man,
compare receipts there, buddy.
I think I lost my Hobby Lobby receipt. I don't think I have that anymore.
It would have been 2018. I know
Okay,
that.
so I stole yours. This was October for me, so I stole
Oh,
yours.
okay. Wow, they're still selling that same thing, huh?